Good afternoon. I'm going to call the Budget Advisory Committee meeting of May 22nd to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Chair Bergman?
Here.
Vice Chair Hall?
Here.
Ms. Hales?
Here.
Ms. McKinney?
Here.
And Mr. Samarkis is not here yet. Maybe he's trying to find parking.
Before we get into the agenda, I want to welcome a new member.
Welcome.
Aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the old business, the mayor and commissioner salary survey.
Okay, thank you, Chairman. You all had a couple questions on the salary last week. Something on the number of hours that maybe estimate of the commissioners and mayor put in during the year. You also asked about, mentioned Dunedin's budget. I wasn't going to put another presentation together, but also I go, okay, let me just put the numbers back together. It might be easier to read and look at. What also I found out when I contacted Dunedin, in green, they just recently increased their mayor and commissioner salaries from, mayor went from 15,000 to 19,000, and the commissioners went from 11,000 to 15,600. So that's a change from what I showed you last week. Also, I'd noticed that for the Tarpon Springs we had a pension. Well, I go, that's not right. So we don't provide a pension for the mayor and commissioners. So I struck that out there, but just said no pension provided. This is the same slide as last week. The only change is Dunedin now has that their increased rate of the 19,000 for mayor and the 15,006 for the commissioners. This was just trying to talk to the commissioners and mayor on their hours. I just went through I went through the history of the agendas for the last year. And obviously there's regular sessions, there's 2 a month. They said me average of 5 hours each meeting. There's budget work sessions, about 4 of those a year, 3 hours each. Budget public hearings, those are in September on the budget, 2 of them at 1 hour each. CRA regular sessions, I put in an average of 6 during the year. Special sessions 4, executive sessions 5. And then I was talking to them about time outside of their meetings during the 52 weeks. And I was getting between 5 and 10 hours a week. So for my calculation, I just took the average, 7.5 times the 52 weeks for the 390 hours. Same for the mayor. I was getting between 10 and 20 hours a week. So I just took 15 hours times the 52 weeks for the 780. And then down below, I get the total between the actual meeting dates and the time outside of meetings for the 539 for a commissioner and 929 for a mayor. And as I say, these are estimates. And you asked about the budget for Dunedin. Their current budget for 2025 is 138 million. Tarpon Springs is 86 million for the current years. And I just put down the percentage of 62% that Tarpon is of Dunedin's. This is my last slide. I just threw in an example of, I put in, if the city did, what I found out, and also looking at them, has a slider. I just threw, it might be helpful for trying to figure out the commission as a part of the mayor. I went through all the cities. It averaged that the commissioner's salaries were about 75% to 80% of the mayor's salary. So I threw in this slide here, just an example. If you decided to pay the mayor $17,000, and then the commissioner would be at $13,600. And with that.
Thank you, Ron. Before we talk dollars and cents here, I went back and looked up the Suncoast article from the Tarpon Commission when they talked about salaries. And there was a line in here that it was suggested that advertise that offers health insurance for the elected offices. But I got to thinking, where do we actually advertise that there's commission seats available? I mean, if that information is not getting to the electorate, they don't know about it, what good is going to be throwing money at it? Because I can't remember the last time I've actually seen an ad. So I was wondering where they're advertised at. I know about it because I'm involved, but I haven't seen an ad per se.
I can answer that. So it's not really a legal ad, but we do post on social media and our webpage, all that information and what benefits go with running for office.
So in other words, there's no formal ad other than going onto the website and looking for it.
That's correct, or calling us
So
or
one of the purposes they
interested.
talked about increasing it was to entice younger people, but I'm not sure how many of those people are seeing that information, so I'm questioning whether money itself is the incentive they need. So now I'll open it up to that conversation, back to the budgets.
From my side, it does look like we are falling a bit behind, because we usually do try to compare ourselves to the comparable cities, Dunedin, Seminole, so it does look to me like we're falling behind. And I appreciate the recommendation, Ron, that you gave. I was trying to calculate quickly what would make sense sort of on that trend line. So it's kind of,
It was an example.
yeah, no, I think it's a good
Sort
example.
of made a nice slope there.
Yeah. I think my point would be, it does look like we're falling behind it. Yeah, I think recommendation might be worth considering.
I do agree we are falling behind. I think Ron was a little more generous than me though with his numbers. I'm falling, just off the top of my head, I'm falling with 15 for the mayor and 11.5 for commissioners, a move.
I was looking at 16.3 for the mayor and like 11 or 12 for the commissioners, so I think that's pretty close.
Yeah.
Say your number one more time?
15 for mayor and 11.5 for commissioners.
Okay. I think the 11.5 makes sense.
And I went 15 on the mayor because that would make the gap, the 3,500, the same as Dunedin is now.
Okay, so maybe 11.5 makes sense for commissioners, and then maybe somewhere between 15, 16 for the mayor.
I can go 15.5.
Any other discussion?
I know at the commissioners' meeting, they have said that they don't necessarily need these raises for themselves, but it would be a way to entice new people to, consider running for election. So I don't know when
Yeah.
the start date would be for that, since they're not looking for it.
Yeah, if I made a motion, I would make it effective 10/1 with the new fiscal year.
On that note, and the note you said about advertising, like, do we have any sense of how other cities attract their commissioners? Probably not, but I thought maybe I'd just ask.
It all varies.
Yeah, it varies, okay. So like, in order for someone to know that there was a spot available and the benefits, it would be, you said, remind me what you said again?
Well, throughout the year, we have the requirements posted, but then,
On the
all
website.
those information on our website, that's updated now I'm getting ready to update for the new election coming up in next March. However, we don't have to place a legal ad. There's no.
No, yeah, I
not
think,
Currently place a legal ad. I'm not sure with the new PI person, if some other new thing coming on board, if some new things will be taking place, but we currently,
and on the
Just posted.
webpage, it lists the benefits, right?
we have, and we have information packets that they
Okay.
get when they come to the office. Mrs. Hales has
Okay.
been through it.
As somebody that ran for commissioner, my perspective and people that I talked to, the salary was not a motivator
Right,
for me.
yeah.
That's not to say.
What
it
was
wouldn't
your, is it more like?
be- Just improving the community.
Yeah, but yeah,
It's,
that's what I was
yeah.
thinking.
So, I mean,
So-
now it's, it's helpful to have it. And really, from my perspective, having a full-time job, the salary was secondary to the health insurance was a draw. Because it
Yeah.
would be better health than what my current employer offers, so I think having that benefit's more important than the salary itself.
Yeah.
Although I do think the salaries we're a little bit behind.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
So does someone want to make a motion for a recommendation from this body?
Well, I would make a motion to increase the salary of commissioners to $11,500 per year and the salary of the mayor to $15,500 per year effective 10/1/2023. 2025.
I second that. Or
Any
if you need a
further,
second.
any further discussion on the motion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Mr. Samarkis?
No.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Hales?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Chair Bergman?
Yes. Thank you. Now we'll move on to new business.
Oh, do we want to just
Go ahead.
cover how we would communicate the recommendation?
We can communicate.
To the board, yeah, don't we have to, that's a motion to go to the board.
That's a
That-
motion to
our
go
rec-
to the board.
Yeah, it's a
They have to vote. They
recommendation
have
to the
approve
board.
it.
Okay,
That's just a recommendation from us to the board.
okay, and you'll just
We'll
communicate.
type it up and I'll-
Okay, good.
Yeah, for Mr. Bergerman's review. Yep.
And before we move on, I want to make a second motion to this, that I want to make a motion to review the mayor and commissioner salaries compared to other regional municipalities like we've just done every 3 years, this board, to do that.
Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second that, yeah.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Samarkis?
Yes.
Ms. McKinney?
Yes.
Ms. Hales?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
And Chair Bergman?
Yes. Okay, that concludes old business. We'll move on to new business, which is primarily going to be the departmental budget presentations. I am going to ask those presenting, because we have one new member from this week and one new member from last week, to give us a little idea what your department's about for their benefit. Okay, are you ready, Irene?
I am.
All yours.
Good afternoon. I think y'all all know me. The city clerk's office consists of the clerk's budget, which is out of the general fund, and the collection budget, which is out of the water and sewer fund. The clerk's budget can be found on pages 47 through 50. The clerk's operating budget for the current fiscal year is approximately $74,000. Election cycles are held 2 years in a row, allowing a rotation of seats, with the third year having no election unless there is a special referendum election. For a standalone election, the supervisor of elections cost estimates are approximately $40,000. That's just the base charge. Whereas an in conjunction election, which is an election held with other countywide elections, that cost estimate is between $3,000 to $5,000, depending on if it's a 1 or 2 card ballot. In addition to those figures, there could be additional costs ranging anywhere between $3,000 to $15,000 for such things as legal publications, bilingual language compliance requirements, reprinting and remailing of ballots, and poll place change mailers if they're needed. In fiscal year 2024 budget, that was supposed to be our off year, which our third year. However, we had 3 elections between the 24 and current 25th budget. There was the August 20th, 24 election, which was a special election for unexpired term due to the resignation of one of the commissioners. On November 5th of 2024, there was a referendum election for the Stamus property purchase. And both those elections were in conjunction with countywide elections, and the costs were 1/8 of the cost of a standalone election. This past March, we had a municipal referendum election, standalone, for a mayor, 2 commission seats, and for 1 unexpired term of a commission seat for 1 year. That occurred when a former mayor resigned in August of 2024. In addition to the regular municipal elections, this year was a charter year, I think everybody's aware of, and the Charter Revision Commission posed 23 charter referendum questions, along with the Board of Commissioners posing 1 opposing question to their proposals. The total cost for the March election was $52,455. Those expenses they're split up into various funds, such as professional services, other contractual services, freight and postage, rent and leases, promotional activities, legal advertising, and operating supplies for those elections. Election costs are more than half of the city clerk's operating budget. During the recent election, the Charter Revision Commission posed a question that was passed by the residents, that a notice by first-class mail shall be sent to all, and I emphasize all, city registered voters 30 days prior to the qualifying time, identifying all commission seats open for election and indicating who currently holds the seat and their eligibility for re-election. The intent of the question was because some members of the charter felt that residents were not aware of elections and felt that this would be a way to have more residents run for office. Now, this wouldn't be saying all the details, but it would be posted in a bit different way. When this was discussed, I explained the impact this would have on our budget, and it didn't matter to me either way, but I felt, doing my job, I had to explain that. I further explained that even though it was not required by law, I do place a legal ad notifying way in advance on the qualifying dates and the election information on our webpage and social media, and at any time, they can call us. We can have anyone run way in advance. There's no, even though recently the charter increased the qualifying time, we pre-qualify. Whereas some cities don't allow you to, they don't allow you to do anything until that qualifying period. That's the difference. We allow you to do everything except you just can't pay your qualifying fees until that qualifying period. In addition, I made them aware that there would be a larger impact if there was a candidate election that had a poll place change requiring 2 mailers to go out for that election. Both of these mailers cannot be done at the same time because for the qualifying one, they want it 30 days prior to qualifying. That passed. And the poll place change, if there was a need for that, law says you can't send it out more than 14 days in advance of the election. Therefore, I increased various funds of the clerk's budget this year by $21,540 at this time. Even though I do not have hard costs due to the variables on the size of the qualifying mailer and the final number of registered voters, how I came about determining an estimated cost was I took the minimal cost of the first-class postage and plus the minimum cost for printing just a postcard size of a mailer times the number of an estimated amount of registered voters to get that charge. So it could vary. For this budget, other large items that make up the clerk's budget are recording fees, code book supplements, our printer rental, and especially our legal ads. We had a lot of legal ad costs this year because of the size of because we had so many questions, and law requires that you get them in Pinellas County, and you also have them translated in Spanish. For our collection budget, that's out of the water and sewer fund. The collection operating budget is approximately $55,000. And for this operating budget, I am happy to say that there are no increases. Two of the highest expenses, though, in this budget that total about 44% of my overall operating budget are maintenance of equipment, our drive-through window, our interactive voice recognition software, which allows customers to make real payments by phone 24/7, and postage of our delinquent letters. Charges for those postage are paid through the non-departmental fund throughout the year, and then at the end of the year, it's taken from that fund. And if you want to know a little bit more about my department and what we do. Just real quick overall, we're a department that wears many hats. I always say we don't marry you, but we could. We could bury you, we can, we're the only ones that I'm aware of still in Pinellas County that still have collections in a clerk's office. And that was due to an issue they had way before my time that occurred, and it's more of a check and balance, and it works great with the audit and everything else to keep it that way. And I thank you for allowing me to make these presentations, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments?
Just one, remind me, in collections, we've got temporary staffing and the contracted services, 17,000, what's that for?
So that helps out if we ever need to fill, if we have someone out and have to fill a temporary position. It also helps some with if we have someone helping us with minutes. We're trying to get caught up pretty much after COVID. We just kind of it was like someone sprinkled the dust and everything just went, so we're working on that to get caught up, and some of that cost comes from there.
Any other questions, comments?
So you said our fiscal year starts October 1st? Correct? So the financials that are through first quarter 25, that are posted in the budget is 6 months worth of financials then, correct?
In the budget book, we have the first 6 months through
Right.
March 31st.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure that I'm reading things correctly, because, I don't really have any questions. I wanted to make sure I'm processing what I'm listening to correctly.
Yeah, and I don't know about other departments, but in some in ours, some we do just at the end of the year and buy in bulk or something like that, or dues or things like that, are toward a certain time of year, so not all show during the,
All right, thank you, Irene.
thank you.
HR is next.
Not really HR.
I was gonna say, you're not HR.
Renee Vincent, Planning and Zoning Director, and since our HR Director, Ms. Niffen resigned, or retired, I should say, I've been pinch hitting. So Lynn Goldstein really kind of developed the budget. I assisted as much as I could, so I think everybody knows what HR does, so hopefully I don't need to try to pinch hit on that. You do see an overall decrease in the annual budget for next fiscal year. That's largely due to change in salary with the new director coming in. I would like to introduce Tabitha Adkins. She started today, so yeah, not expecting her to want to jump into this. We did have a small increase in a few of the line items, professional services as well as training. Training's really been a very under budgeted, in my opinion, line item for HR for a long time, so we did ask that to be bumped up. We even this fiscal year did a transfer inside of the budget to get some additional training dollars, and I got 3 of the staff members attending HR classes for an HR certificate management certificate through USF. So then they've been really, really excited to have that training. So it's going well, and we'd like to be able to continue that. So I'd like to see more than 2,000 in there, but I think Ron's, budgeting as best he can right now. So maybe we can pick that up later. But I'll be happy to answer any questions if I can, and I have Lynn here as well. So.
No, it looks like overall a decrease and not too many changes. Otherwise, no questions for me.
No questions.
Well, let's move on to youth employment
Oh,
program.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
I do have a question. I know that the last couple years, as far as the employees' insurance premiums have gone up, I think it was 7%, then last year was 8%, and this year we're looking at possibly 10%. And I understand that, I get that. I also understand it's a perk to be an employee to get your insurance paid for. Totally agree with that. What I'm having a concern about is, when is the last time the employee was asked to pay more, because the city has always absorbed the the cost increases. And so it's like, I believe, and I don't remember the numbers because I did it a year ago in my head, or at home, and it was like, maybe, let's just say, the employee was paying $600 for family coverage, and the city is paying like $1,200. So, and we've keep absorbing the increases. So when is the last time they had to pay an increase?
I'm gonna have to defer to Ron. Do you know?
I think it was about 2 years ago that the last time that they had when there was the increase in the health insurance, we passed that on to the employee. And it's about 54% is what the employees pay of the total for their family coverage year as a.
Must have been the year before I started. Because I know it was 7%, then 8%, and so it must have been the year before that. Okay.
Anything
Came up
else?
to a lot of money.
It does.
Anything else in HR? Okay, the youth employment program?
I have
That's-
no
that's
idea. That's
listed.
not my wheelhouse.
That's just the money for, sometimes they hire the high school kids during
Okay.
the summer, so that's that money set aside for youth employment during the summer.
Okay. Now for planning.
Thank you. Okay, something I know a little bit more about. So, just to give you an overview, so the planning department, we have a staff of 5, including myself. We are responsible for administering the comprehensive plan, which was just completely updated last year. So that does call for a lot of new initiatives, amendments to the existing land development code, the special area plan, smart code, and things of that nature. We also provide staff support directly to the Planning and Zoning Board, the Board of Adjustments, and the Historic Preservation Board, and we also coordinate the city's Technical Review Committee, which reviews all development applications that come through the city. So if you want to build, a new whatever, CVS somewhere, or anything like that, the Technical Review Committee is the first review body, and that consists of staff from various departments. We also now use an external stormwater consultant to review site plans to make sure that we are getting the best that we can for stormwater control. We did, for the overall budget this year, again, you'll see a fairly significant decrease. That's because we decreased the consulting budget pretty dramatically. We're trying to do as much as we can in-house moving forward, but we do retain a budget there for professional services for something that's technical that maybe we don't have the ability to do. We'll go out and get a consultant for specific tasks. We do have now what I want to say. We have a group of consultants that we have pre-qualified across various disciplines. So now if we need a consultant, we can get to them very quickly. They're pre-qualified. We can get a scope of work, go directly to them, so we don't have to go through our bid process. So that's been very good for us. We decreased the professional services. We have a decrease in our travel and per diem. I find that most of the time, a lot of us are just doing a lot of online training rather than traveling these days. We also have a decrease in our books, publications, and subscriptions, and a little bit of a decrease in our training budget. But overall, we have a pretty dramatic increase in the overall budget. So, any questions?
I see Connect Tarpon Springs in
Yes.
your books, so
Yes.
12,600 annually. That's just for,
That's the software as a service.
right. Have we done any analysis of the usage of that website, and is it beneficial to us?
We do. There's a plethora of statistics that you can get on the back end. The biggest increase in usage and people tuning into that and using it really came out of the 2 hurricanes, unfortunately or unfortunately.
Right.
But we started really pushing out a lot of information through Connect Tarpon for post-hurricane information because it was a really good resource for us. We'll also be putting out a budget survey through it probably in the next few days to get input on the annual budget development. So I think right now we've got about, I want to say 1,200 registrations, but we get a lot more views than that. That's just people registered. We don't make people register to participate in surveys and things because people sometimes just don't
Yeah.
want to register. But if you're interested, we can run a report on annual usage for you and get it to you sometime after this.
Yeah, I know during the hurricane it was very beneficial. I'm just wondering, long-term, do we need a separate website, or is it something we can incorporate into the city's website?
We will definitely look at that because I for one would prefer not to have as many.
As two, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What that particular website does for us though is it's very well built for doing specific engagement. So that really kind of parallels like if we have an open house for a planning project, or we want to have, a community workshop, we can parallel that and push those surveys and those activities out through that website a lot easier than we can trying to build that from scratch for doing things like surveys and map exercises and stuff. So it really is geared toward that type of community input and community development projects. So it's, but if we can find a way, or find something else in Civic Clerk that is part of that might be less expensive, we certainly would do that.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for planning? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman, can I just throw something in here? I know
Please.
talking about the health insurance. That 10% is an estimate.
Right, I knew that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I wasn't sure.
I heard you say that last week.
You know, that last year was an 8.7% increase, what you said, the year before that was 7%, and the year before that was 5%. So hopefully continue that trend that's under 10%.
Yeah, yeah.
And I want to clarify, because I don't remember, the employees is fully paid, right?
No.
No, the employee,
Oh, no, I'm sorry, employee.
the employee's fully paid, but if they have family members, then that's a shared cost.
4%.
Okay.
You're up, sir.
All right. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. I'm Thomas Kiger, the Public Services Director, and we've got some of our staff with us today as well. We've got Holly Langston, our Sustainability Coordinator, Ray Page, our Utilities Superintendent, Howard Hunt, our Golf Course Manager, and Jamie Taylor, our Recreation Superintendent. So we've got a quick overview of the budget just to help you guys get acclimated. So here's the general org chart of the department right now. We've got sort of a few key operational groups looking at utilities. We've got some recreation programming, and we also have sustainability. And these are a little bit of a mix between general fund and enterprise fund. We have several enterprise funds. Golf courses, its own enterprise fund. Utilities, its enterprise fund. Recreation, cemetery both have their own special purpose funds like perpetual care, but are day-to-day funded out of general fund. And sustainability is a hybrid, recognizing its responsibilities kind of across the board. Again, quick snapshot of our leadership team that we just introduced. And so here's a quick overview of all the budgets within the department. So in the past, my usual spiel for this would be we're roughly 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 between operating, personnel, and capital. We've actually got, this year it's a little bit more heavily weighted towards capital, which we think is good, especially in utilities. The last few years have been a bit of a catch-up year on capital expenditures, and we're starting to get back in that mode of like we're stabilizing the enterprise fund and starting to reinvest in utility assets. And we've also got a pretty big line item in there for the golf course clubhouse, which we'll get to later. So, but as you can see, overall about $7.5 million in personnel, about $8.1 million in total operating, and about almost 13 in CIP coming up. So quick highlights for the recreation division. Key costs here are personnel. We do have some interesting programs here with contractual services. So some of these items are, they show up as expenses, but they're also revenue generating. And then operating supplies is another key thing. So that goes into like a lot of our, Jamie's awesome programming for, senior programs, summer camps, running, the youth leagues and all that sort of thing. And you can see a quick snapshot of some of the different programs that are run through this department on the right. Cicadia Cemetery is another interesting one. We do have some interesting news coming up for the next year, which has resulted in some minor changes in the budget. So next year, we're planning to have the Cicadia East Cemetery expansion open, which will necessarily increase the operational costs a little bit, particularly on the contractual services, because we're anticipating having more burials. And that's a service that we pay for, but it's also reimbursed, and so it's another revenue generating activity. So you might see a little bit of an increase on some of the operating costs, or for the contractual services, but that's anticipating the opening and additional revenues coming in to support those expenses. And one kind of interesting one, we do have a capital outlay for the new ride-on mower, and that's going to be funded through the perpetual care fund. Long-term, we do have a goal as we start to sell the new graves in the Cicadia East Cemetery to use that to build up our fund balance in the perpetual care fund, and use it more as a traditional perpetual care fund. We've historically used that as a bit of a sinking fund to, fund like the cemetery expansion itself, but now we've got this opportunity to start collecting some money and use that as a long-term funding source to, shift some of the burden of the operating costs from the cemetery off of the general fund and back on the perpetual care fund, which would be a little bit more traditional for a cemetery operation. Sustainability, very interesting, it's a little bit of a smaller budget. Again, recognize that it's more of like a policy and outreach program, and a lot of the individual sustainability things are accounted for in other individual budgets, like solar and things like that. So we do have some programming. This is also interesting. We do have our sustainability intern program, which has been very successful here. And we've got a little bit of professional services to support our ongoing sustainability program. We've got a lot of action items in for next year from the city adopted sustainability plan. So that's one thing that you will see in that budget. And next we have a quick overview of water and sewer. So kind of two general operational groups here. Right now we've got water, which includes the water wells, the reverse osmosis plant, the pipes to take the water from the plant out to the customers, and also the meter shop, which prepares the meters, which are like the cash register for the utility. We've also got the wastewater plant side, which is, the pipes that bring the water back to the plant itself, the lift stations, the pumps that move the water from point A to point B. Some of the quick highlights again on the water utility budget. The big drivers are kind of across the board in the utility funds is, on the operating side is really staffing and electrical and operating costs, depending on what area you're looking at. You can see here, just the water plant itself is, it takes a lot of pumps to move water around and to do treatment through the reverse osmosis process. So we've got about $1 million in electricity there and about $1 million in operating costs. And these are largely fixed costs. They vary with water production, but, they're largely like non-discretionary. Distribution, staffing is the big driver there. We're focused on getting folks out there, having rapid response time, doing repairs, taking care of the system, and maintaining public health and safety. And we do have one kind of deviation from the current rate plan that we've been working through with the finance department, and we're in the process of doing a new CIP, which is to do right now we've got a placeholder for a pretty large phased meter replacement program. And the intent of that is to do some revenue recovery. The meters are aging out. They're not capturing all the revenue. So we want to make sure that everyone's paying their fair share for the services provided. One question we always get, and this kind of goes across the board throughout public services, is we do really encourage people to look and itemize and break down as they develop their operating budget. We're not one of those, we're not a group that, goes in and looks and says, hey, add 5% or add 10%. We try and go through and do a thorough review of all of our line items that we spend, especially out of like the operating accounts, and forecast those and say, all right, what did this go to last year? Is there anything that changed that would cause that to change this year? And so you can see here the level of detail that, say, our reverse osmosis, our water division manager has gone through on building his 52 account for operating supplies at the water plant. And one interesting thing here, just to give you a little sense of utility operations, is all the items that are in blue are basically non-discretionary. These are contract pricing. They are basically tied exclusively to the level of water production we needed to do. So if people buy more water, we have to add more chlorine to disinfect that water, for example. And then you get into some of those other items that are not directly tied to production. So like, things like you still have to buy, screwdrivers and pipes and rubber gloves for the labs and that sort of thing. So
Is that largely the rationale for the increase, is like increased water processing, or?
yes, that we do have them go through and look at, year over year, like production and our.
And then forecast like what it's gonna be for, no, okay.
Exactly, and they'll actually go through line by line, so they know what the new unit prices are for carbon dioxide. We've also had some examples here. You can note sodium hydroxide, which there was a reduction. We're not gonna make less water, but that contract floats on the open market. And so there has been some movement in chemical markets over the last couple of years, quite a bit. So whenever we do see change in contract pricing, that gets reflected back into the budget as a savings. This is kind of a broader thing, knowing that we are in the middle of doing our rate study this year. We just did this a couple of years ago, so this is a little bit of a carryover from 2023. But we'd like to show folks like what's driving the cost of, operations. And you can see here on the left, we've got the National Water Treatment Chemical Index, and you can see, big spike from 2021 up through the post-COVID with the supply shocks. And then we had a little bit of stabilizing, into 2023, 2024. And then it's starting to pick back up again, so we're continuing to monitor that. We were kind of hoping it was stabilized, but does seem to be a little bit of an uptick in that market. On the opposite side, you've got plastic pipe, had a really big shock. This is something that goes across the board, not just in water, but wastewater, everything uses plastic pipe, even the golf course. We have irrigation materials in the cemetery and things like that. So that had a huge jump, 130+%. And since then, it's come down about 18%, so it's not quite got back to normal. Prices tend to be sticky, and so they have to have a big driver to push them one direction or another. But continue to drop, so that's been reflected in some savings on the operational costs and repairs and materials. On the wastewater side, again, staffing at the wastewater plant is a big cost sector for us, as well as electricity, a little bit less so. It's a less energy-intensive process than reverse osmosis. Operating supplies, again, you're talking water treatment, wastewater treatment chemicals, and a lot of contractual services to support the treatment operation. The sewage collection folks are the folks that repair the pipes. That's a very staff-intensive group. They've got to get out there when they're, maintaining the system. DEP has put some new regulations in place that require us to be proactively investigating a certain amount of our system over time. So we're going to need to continue to maintain that staffing. And then smaller amounts for like repairs and maintenance and things like that. That's a largely capitalized repairs area. And lastly, with the lift stations and utilities maintenance group, which is sort of our jack of all trades, go fix all the stuff type of group, and they're doing an outstanding job. They're the ones who help restore wastewater service after all the hurricanes, so I'd like to acknowledge that. Again, electric service for all the pumps and things like that, and continuing to support repairs and maintenance throughout the group. And I do like to talk a little bit about our CIP needs and goals. This is something that's, again, a carryover from the last 2 years, but just to have folks have a sense of where we're headed and what our priorities are. Continue to build out the well field for the reverse osmosis plant. It'll be a large driver for us over the next few years. We've been working towards a large metallic pipe replacement program, which will be a 30-year program that's scheduled to really accelerate in the next couple of years. The wastewater plant's getting a little bit older. It's 40 years old now, so it's getting into sort of these two-phase like life cycle rehab. That's over the next, into the 2030s. We're looking at $25–30 million, and we're working on reassessing those costs currently. Lastly, again, to continue to focus on level of service and being proactive in maintaining our existing assets. So, like for example, the sewer system, we've got 4,000 feet of pipelining annual budget and target, and we've been hitting that, and that will result in lining 70% of the clay lines in the city over 20 years. So again, try and be goal-based. What's the intent? What level of funding is needed to support that, and where are we going? Next, golf course, another enterprise fund. Again, personnel is one of our two big cost sectors here, our personnel and the contractual services. We do use a contract service for all the golf course maintenance. We don't mow our own greens and fairways. That's subbed out through Down to Earth, which is our contractor. And again, we've got some more fun news here that we're going to be focusing on reinvesting in the course over time. You might have seen the presentations at the earlier board meetings. But we've got a really good story to tell. Howard's done an exceptional job here. Continue to have record levels of play at the course over the last few years and participate in the post-COVID golf boom. So reinvesting in the facility and making sure that we don't, accidentally kill the golden goose when it's making money. So we're looking, the board supported us through reinvesting in a new clubhouse. It's going to be about $4.1 million. And we have a business plan for it.
Yes,
So we've got.
Great, yeah.
Thank you. Again, to Howard for making it possible with the good management. Again, we're looking at completing the design this year, starting in construction The plan is to self-fund within the enterprise fund wholly the clubhouse, $500,000 cash financing, and then we've got a current plan for a 10-year construction loan. And you can see here, we've got our projected annual income and projected annual expenses. And we've also developed a little bit of a,
Does the income cover like, not only, are you still gonna have in your business plan, like that rental space that, the venue space, I think we were kind of talking about?
yes, that is included. We did include a small bump in future revenues. You can see here for a 3% increase in revenue in 2027, which would be about $80,000 as a new revenue stream for the event space, so.
Okay, oh yeah, this is nice. This is really nice.
Thank you. And again, the goal would be long-term to maintain about $50,000 at minimum in our, not as a matter of policy, but as a financial goal in that enterprise fund at about 55,000 rounds of golf a year, which that would represent a pretty significant drop-off from the level of play we're having right now.
One other question, do you have any sense, like, I know that after COVID, there was an increase in people golfing, but is every golf course kind of like experiencing that, or is it special here because we kind of have the historic, or, we have some special rating on the golf course, but do you have any sense on that? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely in the vein of, there's this whole municipal golf renaissance that's happening.
Okay.
You have to be well-managed, and Howard's done an exceptional job at that.
Yes.
But you're also seeing record new golfers getting in the sport and stuff like
Just in
that. So
general.
it's a industry-wide
Okay,
trend.
cool.
And here you can see our year-over-year revenues there. That's pretty interesting. And you can see even this year with the hurricane, this is up through January. We'll have to get a new slide for this at some point. But you can see the blue line that's month-over-month cumulative revenues. And this would be the third or fourth year in a row that we're on track for beating last year's revenues. So that's a very positive trend. And we didn't go out and build this plan around, sort of one scenario or particularly a rosary scenario. We did a sensitivity analysis, and we looked at, all right, what happens if there's a drop-off in play? Would this put the course in a bad situation, or if we had a drop-off? And so this is a quick scatter plot, basically, of what happens at different amount of rounds played per year, and how would that look like for the fund balance over time, and can it sustain that level of debt, into the future? And I think the answer is yes. So.
Great, this is great, yeah.
All right, and I guess we already had some questions, but with that, we've got our staff here too, and so we'd be happy to entertain any questions about the budget.
Any other questions?
No questions for me? I had a question, but I think you answered it already, so I was wondering if there's gonna be any impact on the tariffs on operating supplies, but I see you've got it sort of pegged to CPI, so that'll account, like, the cost of those supplies. It sounds like you've got that kind of incorporated in the budget, and then you covered the golf course questions. That's really all I had.
Yes, that is the million-dollar question, is, cost inflation.
Yeah.
One question for Howard on the golf course, though. With the increased rounds of play, how does that affect the pace of play?
Pace of play, still very good. Of course, obviously, peak season, January through middle of April, end of April. You'll have your days where it might be a 4.5 round of golf, but we've been noticing, and we keep track of it every day. Starter does, Ranger does, I do. We're still in the 4 hours to 4 hour and 10 minute range.
Good.
And of course, summertime, you can get out there, when it's not busy, playing 3.5 hours.
Yeah, but then in the summertime, you're dealing with the heat too.
It's not that bad.
One other question, what are you most excited about once you get the building built and all that?
What I'm most excited about is what we can offer our customers beyond what we have now. So we've just outgrown the building we're in now, right?
Yeah,
It's very limited space
Yeah.
for food and beverage, very limited space for events, right? So we don't really host many golf tournaments or golf outings, your Rotary clubs, your Kiwanis clubs,
Elks Lodges,
fundraisers,
yeah.
right? Because we don't have the facilities.
Yeah,
So now we're gonna be able to market and go after that within the community.
nice.
Really, nobody calls us because they know, hey, we can't put 100 people in there.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm most excited about. But even beyond that, I'm excited for the city because this is gonna be a great asset for the city
Yeah.
beyond just the next 5 years,
yeah, absolutely.
so.
Any other
Any other
questions for Tommy's group?
So, I know, if I recall correctly, there was an increase, in the cost of play last year. What are the projected increases in costs of play?
In the business plan, it calls for a 4% annual increase in rates, which, you know, when you look at kind of the bin of services and, you know, what the course uses, you know, we're usually in that 3.5% to 4% annual increase on expenses. So that's kind of just pegging along with, like, you know, making sure that our prices are keeping up with the operating expenses. We're not envisioning any like large one-time jumps to like fund the course or anything like that. You know, just keep up, maintain inflationary levels, you know, that sort of thing.
$3 a year, maybe something like that, $2, $3 a year.
Yeah, I think we'd been talking about around $2 a round, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Scott, you're next.
All right, good afternoon, and welcome the new members to the board. Appreciate you volunteering and doing this for everybody. So my name's Scott Young. I'm the fire chief at the fire department here. Just give you a quick synopsis of our budget and then answer any questions. As you can see, our proposed budget is about $7.7 million this year. Here's a breakdown of the last few years. So you can see in 2022, our budget was about $6 million, and this year we're at about 7.7, about a $1.7 million increase. The majority of that increase is salaries and benefits for the employees. Here's a breakdown of our vehicles and our vehicle plan. Right now, we have 2 vehicles financed, a 2022 Squad with 1 payment left. That was 5-year payments. We have 1 payment left next year. A new engine we just received with 3 payments left on that one. And then below is a list of all of our big vehicles that we have and the status. What we do is fire engines, Squads, we keep in service frontline for 10 years. They go into a reserve status for another 5 years. The ladder trucks are 10 years of service and they're out. The reason we do that, there's 2 reasons. NFPA requires us or recommends that we keep this type of a plan for the service of our vehicles. The reason we don't keep a backup ladder truck is the maintenance and the cost of maintaining those trucks are pretty high. We'd love to have one. It would help our ISO rating, but it's just probably not cost effective in that manner. As you can see, the 2020 ladder truck is 5 years old right now. It needs to be replaced in 2030. We are talking right now with the company, the Pierce Manufacturing Company, who we buy our ladder truck through right now, about ordering another one. The reason we would order today is taking over 50 months once you place the order for the truck to arrive. So you have to forecast out, when do I need to put the order in? And by the time it gets here, the one will be ready to go. The other reason is the cost of the vehicles are skyrocketing faster than we can keep up. So we're looking at options of financing versus just putting money aside and paying cash when it gets here. So the finance director and I have been working with that scenarios, and we're waiting on some information so we can take it to the board to see if they're ready to at least place the order. So we would have it at some point, you know, close to 2030. The rescue at the very bottom of the page, we got that last year. The county paid for that vehicle for us, and they will replace that every 5 years for us. It's another vehicle that, even though we just got it, we're gonna have to start looking at when do we start ordering another one, because it takes 2 to 3 years to get that. But it is funded, the county pays for it, it's about a $300,000 truck. So we do have some CIP penny fund money that were proposed in the budget. Whether this will come to light, we don't know yet. We're still in the mix of the budget. Staff vehicle, we replace a staff vehicle every year usually. The diesel tank at the big public safety building is due its end of life. So we're looking at having to replace that. The bathrooms for the firefighters over there, they're 25 years old. They've never been remodeled. We have some water leaks and stuff that we are patching as we go. So we're looking at trying to do that. Thermal imaging cameras, those are the cameras that the firefighters take inside the building that can see, we call them eyes in the smoke, can see things in the building. And then the alert system over there at the big public safety building, it's 25 years old. It's at its end of life. The Motorola is saying we don't have parts, or we won't have parts to replace it if it breaks. So we're trying to look at seeing a way to replace that system and come up to the current standards of what the county's looking for. So those are the prices, the projected prices. We're working on some of the more detailed numbers for all those, but we're waiting on some quotes and stuff for that. So how the system works for us. Pinellas County EMS provides us 12 paramedics to staffed, okay? Now, we have more paramedics because we only hire paramedics, but they fund 12 paramedics for us. So you can see there the county provides $3.1 million a year for EMS. That pays for all the 12 personnel, supplies, et cetera. This is an increase from last year, about almost $300,000. Believe it or not, we get money for fire from the county of about $604,000 this year. What that does is we have unincorporated areas within the city. We cover fire for those areas, so the county gives us a percentage of what area is unincorporated. I think that number right now is about 9.4% that they pay us. So what that also does, so anything that we have in our budget that we buy, I'll use the new fire station as an example. It's a $6.2 million project. The county's going to give us close to $600,000 for that, towards that station, because it's part of the coverage. So, so anything that we buy, Ron submits it in, and we get about 9%, a little over 9% for certain items. They also give us money for our fireboat maintenance that we get. We get about $10,000 a year for that. We have another Marine unit that give us $5,000 for maintenance on that. And our dive team, we get $15,000 a year for equipment and replacement training, et cetera. Again, there's only 3 dive teams in the fire departments in the county, St. Pete, Clearwater, and us. So pretty privileged to have that going for us. So. SAFER grant. 2 of the new members might now know the SAFER grant is through FEMA. We got that a year ago, 2 years ago now, and it was for 3 firefighters. FEMA, we were able to get them to pay 100% salary and benefits for 3 years. We are 1 year left on that. 2026 will be the last year that it's funded. After that, the city will take over the whole cost of that. But it's an easy way for the city to kind of forecast and budget in to bring new employees on. This is our second SAFER grant we've got. We've got one first time at 4 firefighters. This one was 3 firefighters. Last year, I was able to go with that rescue. I was able to get the county to fund 3 firefighters full time from now, for the rest of the time now. So we've put on about 10 firefighters in the last 7 years. So.
There's been no interruption to the FEMA?
No, there was a little bit of a halt,
Okay.
which kind of had us in a little bit of a panic mode.
Yeah.
More so Ron.
Okay.
But
Sounds like panic
it seems
mode,
like
but it's okay.
it was just a brief few weeks, but it seems like it's still rolling.
Oh, good.
PJ, our grant person, keeps an eye on that to make sure what's going on with that. So they just, as a matter of fact, they just sent out the notice for anybody wanting the new SAFER grants. So to me, if they're advertising it, maybe they aren't looking at
Project's
really
still going.
stopping it.
Yeah.
So we've been really lucky with SAFER grants. A lot of departments put in for SAFER grants, they never get them. So we may look at another one, possibly, but we'll have to see how it goes. We still got 1 more year to pay on this one. That will be funded for this one. So personnel services expenditures. As you can see, 2024 was 5.8. This year is at 6.3. 2025, we're projected at about $6.1 million a year. Our operating expenses, you can see in 24, almost 1.3. This year is at 1.4. We're on track right now to be about 1.3 for this year. It's still fluctuating. It all depends. Overtime's calculated to this and how we do with spending and cost. We're seeing a lot of increase in supplies and stuff like that we are buying. So it's just the never ending. So this is, we also handle emergency management in our department. We have 1 person in emergency management, Megan. Personnel services for her budget's 124. Operating expenses are about 90,000, for a total of about $213,000 a year. So this is how it kind of breaks down. So we get funding from the county of about $3.7 million. The city funding for our department is about $4 million, and that's how we come up with our $7.7 million budget. So as you know, Station 70 out there on Gulf Road has started. If you go out there, I think tomorrow they get ready to pour the footers for the building. And we're expecting it to be done somewhere in June, July of next year. Hopefully earlier, but we'll see.
Exciting.
And that's it. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Questions?
From
Comments?
my side.
No question.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Procurement's next.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, Janina Lewis, Procurement Services Director. Thank you for being here. Basically, my budget is almost the same as last year. You'll see maybe one change where we have under our repairs and maintenance, there's an additional fee that we've added on, and that is for our solicitation software. We used to have a free software, but that software wasn't free to the suppliers. So we've opted to go to a different software where it now, even though we pay a little more, we get not only contract management, but it's free for suppliers to do as many downloads as they like. And with that, I will turn it over for any questions.
Downloads, or I just,
So with our old solicitation software, it was under DemandStar, which is a good software.
And solicitation software is where you say, I want something, you send it out? or
It's where we put the competition for the bids. It'd be better if I say bids. So we
Okay.
put stuff out for bids. That's
that
probably
we
what
need.
everyone's used to hearing, a solicitation, because a bid is different from an RFP and okay, so you get the point. So with DemandStar, with the bids, we would put it on there, but then it's like a fee, one, to be registered to receive more than just our city's bids
Okay.
for the vendors. And then per document, if they're not registered, then they had to pay like a $5 fee. And with a lot of the grants, we're talking, you could have up to, 20 attachments, and that's a fee for them to pay each time they have to download every document.
Oh, yeah, that does sound.
With the addendums as well. So with this new software, we get a lot more services.
They charged you by document?
Yes,
Wow.
the vendors, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So I felt that maybe that was prohibiting some of our competition, because we did go out and ask, why don't you download the documents, or why didn't you bid on this, when we would get only one bid or no bids, and they would say they just didn't want to pay to download it.
Okay, so this will probably help get better,
I think it has. So far, we've had a lot more responses,
good,
depending on what the item is, yes.
that's great.
It'll be something we've got real-time feedback that this is working.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one question, but it's, I don't, like, I asked last week, are you able to tell at all, like, the supplies that the city uses, or the things that you're procuring, the supply chain or sourcing, is that information available to you, or is it not?
As far as, you mean like okay, so also under my department is our typical like water stores area, which is our supply warehouse, basically, materials management.
Okay.
So we have two contractors that are our typical standardized contractors.
Yeah.
We use only like Neptune meters, let's say, for
Okay.
meter readers. In that aspect, we do stay in constant contact, because the supply chain issues, such as brass,
Okay.
we get
yeah,
a lot
so
of back
good-
orders.
Yeah, good one,
And
yeah.
if that's what you're referring to, that's really where we see the holdup on that side. In construction,
Yeah,
it's not so much now, but after COVID, there was a long leg for lumber, long leg for steel.
yeah.
Lead items, these are long lead items. Let me get in a better term. So we kind of do watch the market and speak with the suppliers before we get ready to do the project. We do the kickoff meeting with the suppliers, and if they have long lead items, we typically like to say, go ahead. What we'll do is give them permission to order supplies up front, and provided they provide us with the receipts and the material times. And then once they're set, then we give them the notice to go ahead and mobilize and start the actual project.
Okay. And so far this year, you haven't noticed any major supply chain change?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
And I know with the tariffs, a lot of people were hesitant about that with steel and some of the other supplies that typically come, computer parts, all those kind of things. Vehicles, we have had a lot with the vehicles as well with the chips. We've had some that we've been waiting like 2 years to be built. We've put those on hold and went different routes because we needed, to replace vehicles now,
Yeah.
especially the police vehicles. They get a lot of mileage or something happens, we need to replace them. So we do tend to try to keep on track with the buys, but if it's a new build, we do tend to wait longer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, you're next.
Thank you. I brought you a annual report for the CRA.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were at the Main Street meeting.
I was.
Nobody likes large font.
Oh, yeah. Tiny, tiny.
Did you enjoy the meeting?
I did.
Yeah, it was good, yeah.
I'm excited.
Karen Lemons, Economic Development Manager and CRA Manager. Happy to be here today. I'll start with the Economic Development budget. It's pretty self-explanatory. There's really just personnel and office-related operating supplies. You'll notice there's a reduction of $2,500 in that line item. That was because last year I had a computer replacement, so I had a new computer. So Ron took that out this year. But the rest of it is pretty much the same as the prior year.
And so I guess I'll jump in with questions if you're ready for that. I think we already covered this last year, so maybe just to remind me, we've kind of already developed most of the commercial space. You're sort of looking to bring businesses in to like rehab or just remind me, kind of just an overview.
Yeah, so we're looking at infill projects now. Most of the city is built out, and what isn't is primarily residential.
Okay.
And going out east past Tarpon Avenue there. So we're looking at infill projects. So for example, right now we're doing a CRA master plan update, and I'll talk about that under the CRA, but we're looking at North and South Pinellas Avenue, which especially the south area is really in need. It's got older plazas that, especially the one that floods all the time. What we can do with that as a city for incentives, trying to prompt the owner to do something there. We'd like to, that's the beginning of the CRA. We would like to be able to do something with that to build it more like the special area plan calls for. And there's a lot of underdeveloped and underutilized properties all along that corridor. And then when you go north after Tarpon, well, after Orange Street, really, there's another area there that could use some love.
Some love, yeah.
Yeah, and we've been working, I know our Public Works has been working for, probably a year or more on some landscaping and some things that we can do right away for beautification. And the issue there has always been that the right-of-way is very small.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot to do.
Yeah.
So what we're going to be doing, and we've got the consultant that's helping us with our CRA plan, because that's still all in the CRA, is reaching out to FDOT to see, what kinds of plants and things can we use that are green most of the year and are acceptable to them in terms of traffic and weather. We're also going to be looking at, speaking of, I just came out of 3 hours of hurricane training today. We had training for the EOC and then training for preliminary damage assessment. So that's kind of in my head. But, this past year, our businesses, especially the sponge docks, they were hit the hardest. Really were pretty resilient. They all bounced back. There's only, I think, a handful of businesses that
shut down because of the storm. So, you know, we're working with them on some marketing initiatives, again, some beautification, some things that we can do to help attract tourists to the area. We still get some calls from people that think the sponge docks aren't open yet, but that's from visitors. But, you know, we have a huge amount of out-of-state and out-of-country visitors that come here. So there's been another push for that. We're looking at some resiliency things that we can put into our code for the southern end of Alt 19 to help those businesses there, whether it's incentives for floodproofing or things like that. So that's another area that we're going to be focusing on.
What's happening with Manatee Plaza? A firm bought it years ago, right, and rehabbed it, but there's no new occupants. What's
Yeah,
going on
it
there?
was sold to a company out of Jacksonville that owns several shopping centers, and we were very hopeful. They were here to our Board of Commissioners a few years ago, and, you know, they showed us the renderings, and they pretty much did what they said they were going to do, but now it's there. The city manager and I had a talk with their CEO, I don't know, he's been here 8 months, so it's probably been maybe 4 months ago. And they indicated that they were waiting on, they were trying to attract their anchor tenant. And then when you get your anchor tenant, then they have other businesses that go with that, and they would fill up. So it's like, okay, we suggested some things that, you know, that we could help with in terms of that. So I work with the broker from Colliers. They're back to the Colliers broker now. They had gone with a local person. They initially had Colliers, and they went to a local person, and they went back to Colliers. And she's really good. So I've been working with her on things that we can do. But outside of that, from what I talked to some businesses that have talked about, you know, have inquired about renting some space.
Rent's high.
And some of the businesses across the street, because we had said, you know, once the flood hit,
Right.
you're high and dry over there. But apparently their rental rates that they're asking are quite high.
Right.
High enough that some of those businesses across the street decided to renovate. Yeah. So we just keep in touch with them.
Yeah, not much we can do, right?
I-
It's always baffling when somebody has something that size.
You would
and
think that they would want to get it.
some income
filled.
is better than no income, right?
Well, Quest moved back in. and-
Yes.
And the nail salon is still there, but across the street, I feel really bad for them because the discount store and the Dollar General, God, I miss the Dollar General. And the discount store really struggled, so.
Yeah, I know. And I know the discount store had inquired about moving across the way, but it was almost double what they were paying. And I understand Dollar General is not probably going to reopen.
Oh,
I like those dollar stores.
It's really flourishing though, up north where the flea market is, the
oh,
The
Harbor Market
marketplace.
or whatever it is. That whole section used to be vacant, is now filled with stores.
It'll come eventually. It just takes time.
So I have a question, and I'll be a little bit selfish since I'm looking at the email that you're copied on from some lady that is trying to set up a stakeholder interview. Her inspireplacemaking.com.
Yes.
So where does that fit in our budget line? What are we trying to do with that?
Okay, so yes, Mike, you were one of the
Oh, yeah.
community, one of the business and property owners that we thought would be good to talk to Inspire. So Inspire, and this is part of the CRA, Inspire Placemaking is the contractor or the consultant that's under contract with us to do the update to the CRA master plan. That contract it came out of the planning budget. Once it's finished, part of it will be paid for under the CRA budget. I think it was $66,000. So that would be coming out of the CRA budget. But what that is that's an update to our CRA master plan that was written in 2001 when the CRA was first created. Hasn't been updated since. So since then, a lot has happened throughout the CRA, and it's time that we do an update to it. So those initial stakeholder public engagement sessions are to talk to business and property owners and residents inside the CRA before the plan gets too far. We just started it. To talk to you about getting your ideas on what's good, what's bad, what would you like to see along the corridor, what would you like to see downtown, what's affecting your area, types of incentives that could be offered. If you could, what kind of business mix would you like to see in your area or throughout the whole CRA? So you've been there a while, so to get perspective on how the area's changed and how you would like to see it grow, because this will be a plan that will look at the CRA from now, probably for the next 20 years or so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. Then we have the CRA budget. So I think of the changes in here, a couple things. We added some additional training funds. We thought it would be a good idea. This is the Florida Redevelopment Association Conference that's held yearly. It's for CRAs throughout the state. It's probably the best conference because it's all the communities that have CRAs and it's sharing information. And they have a lot of sessions on basic information about CRAs. We thought it would be good to add training. I go to it every year. I know our city manager is a member of the board of directors. We thought it would be good to offer to the mayor and Board of Commissioners an opportunity to go to if they would like to get a little bit more information or involved in the CRA. So that's what that additional money is in the training budget. We have an additional lease agreement for parking lot. This was with Truist Bank. We entered into an agreement with them last October to lease their parking lot. It's for after their bank hours and then on the weekends. There's almost $1 million in there for the Orange Street reconstruction. That's a project that would reconstruct Orange Street from, I believe it's Alt 19 to Tarpon Avenue. It's that bumpy road that you're aware of. Several months ago, sometime last year, there was a survey that was done for residents. They had 3 options. There was a best option to do the reconstruction and do a lot of landscaping, sidewalks. Then there was a middle, and then there was a lower cost that would just reconstruct the street. So I think they're going to be bringing that. That's part of the new budget, and since it's in the CRA and that's a capital project, those are the type of projects we like to see within the CRA. So that's being charged to the CRA. And then the 1.9 is the additional funds that are in the CRA that can be spent throughout the year. We have it labeled as CRA master plan because we are updating that, but that's not what it's going to cost. But projects to be done will be coming out of that plan, the current plan and the new one. So things that come up throughout the year, we have a good amount of money to be able to fund those. A couple things. We have a branding initiative that is going to the BOC and CRA board on Tuesday. That is to hire a firm. The team selected 365-degree marketing to do a complete branding and marketing initiative for the city. So it's pretty exciting. They're going to put together a new logo, color palettes, fonts, specifically for the downtown, but then eventually it will be citywide. So we're trying to get a look for Tarpon Springs. We have all these different, we've got the seal, we've got the sustainability has a logo, we use the diver helmet, we have the birds, we have all these different kinds of logos. So what we'd like to do is unite that and just have one nice look so that when you see something, you say, oh, that must be from Tarpon. And eventually have our First Friday could adopt that, some of our events. So, and then we've got our Forbes property, that's that vacant lot on Tarpon Avenue. So that is out right now for an invitation to negotiate, which is, we're asking for proposals from developers to see what they would propose to build on that piece. We've gone through several of these in my time here, but we'll see if this one works. The deadline for that is June 18th, and then we'll see what we can get from there. We have offered some incentives for that, so if it does come to fruition and we negotiate a project, any of those incentives would come from the CRA.
Any further questions for Karen?
On the building grant, we've not done any this year. I see there's nothing year-to-date actuals, no building grants this year.
We haven't reimbursed any this year. We had some, but then the hurricane came, so they haven't finished their projects. So we have a couple there, and we have 2 new ones that we're working on now. So yeah, last year was a little different.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Building Development Group?
Hello,
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Dave Gilson, Building Development Director. Obviously we'll ask any questions or answer any questions you have. My stuff is pretty straightforward with the exception of labor and associated things that we have no control over. As I recall, the budget was less this fiscal year than the previous year, and it's less this year, or excuse me, the 2026 than it is this year. So we're getting more and more efficient and bringing the budget line items down with the exception of labor.
Any questions?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Why do you feel the labor is going up?
Well, it's just, we get, COLAs every year. It's just, the labor market in general. The city gives the entire staff a COLA, it's generally between 3% and 5%. Workers' comp is what it is, unemployment, health insurance. Health insurance is, Ron's unhappy about health insurance.
The 10%.
Yeah. So, we in the department have no direct control over that.
Well, at Tree Bank.
Tree Bank. Shannon's been in meetings all day. I was kind of trying to get her to, Tree Bank, it's kind of isolated money. It's spent for very few things. It's not really, money comes in from people cutting trees down or paying in lieu of. So that's where that money comes, and it only goes back out to replant trees, sometimes to cut trees down. So there's a couple things in there. We're isolating some money for some grants, but one of the grants fell through, right? But we still have some other grants that we've set aside some money. We have matching grants, sometimes from the Fed, sometimes from the state. One of the Fed grants fell through, I think, because of the Doge deal.
Just so you know, we have a separate tree bank reserve, and that's the money that's used for this budget.
Okay. So that's not part of the regular general fund, it's a separate fund of money. Okay.
Yeah, there's very, very few things can be taken, for very specific reasons to be taken out of it.
There's a resolution that just says what are the allowable expenses within the tree bank.
Okay.
The fund has about 400,000 in it.
Anything else for David? Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Okay, Ron, I guess you're up.
Best for last?
Yeah.
Well, when I go to the finance department budget, it's gone down. But we got the health insurance increase. We had operating went down, but that's because we had a couple computers last year. As we mentioned, we took all the computers out of all the departments because we had the 50 computers, we had to buy special ones for police. They're reusing all those 50 computers at other departments, so we won't see too many computers in these departments' budgets. We've got seven full-time positions. We have 8, as I was trying to say, but we're still down one position, our financial analyst position. We're keeping busy. As you know, we presented the audit last week, and with the budget, this seems like it doesn't stop, but we're doing a revenue sufficiency study, which involves our department. We're doing a revenue sufficiency study for water and sewer, another revenue sufficiency study for stormwater, because stormwater doesn't have approved rates for next year. Water and sewer has a rate increase of 2.75%, but we wanted to revisit that and see if that rate needs to be adjusted. We're also working on an impact fee study currently. There's a payroll study going on, looking at our payroll system and the efficiencies of it, and even so whether should we go from weekly payroll to bi-weekly payroll. And, thanks to Sherry and Shane, a lot of the brunt of work has fallen on them for a lot of this stuff, but trying to get them familiar with it. But FEMA's causing us a lot of work every week, meetings with our FEMA consultant, meetings with FEMA reps for the hurricanes, Hurricane Helene and Milton, about $8 million worth of debris removal. What we wanted to try to do is make sure we get everything they can so we can get our reimbursement as soon as possible. Our debris removal is looking at, we've paid $5 million so far. We don't have all the invoices. I've heard estimates it might be 7 or 8 million we eventually got to pay for debris removal. It's supposed to be 100% reimbursable, but we still have maybe $1 million of overtime. People that work the EOC, another maybe $1 million of supplies we needed. So we're aggressively just trying to keep pushing in consultants and FEMA, meeting with them weekly to just make sure they get everything so we can try to get all our money back. So I appreciate FEMA, Sherry and Shane for all the work trying to get
absolutely.
get FEMA everything they need.
Sounds like a total pain.
Yeah, so we've been busy, it seems like. So that's our finance department budget. And then if I go to the water and sewer, I'm over the water and sewer department. We've got a utility billing department and the meter reader department. Like a lot of times I gotta be familiar with meters these days, the different types. So the utility billing department, it's gone down, but they had a couple computers last year. So that's why that went down in operating supplies. The one increase was the health insurance at 10%. The other department, the meter reader department, it went up just a little bit for, I guess, mostly because of the health insurance, but it also went down a little bit because of, we had a computer last year, so not too much exciting in those departments. And in utility billing, there's the 4 ladies that work there. Very fortunate, I have nobody's, knock on wood, we've kept a full staff for a couple, 2-3 years now, and we got the 3 meter techs, and knock on wood, I got some good employees down there, and I hope I don't lose them. So that's the finance department, with the finance department and our utility portion.
I have a question about overtime in this utility billing.
Yeah.
So I mean, is it carried over from the hurricane?
Yes,
That's why
you'll see a lot of departments.
okay. Just so I understand it better. Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else for Ron?
No.
Thank you.
I think that was the last one.
You're the last one for today. We have another set for next week.
Yes.
Okay. That concludes new business for today. Any public comments? Board and staff comments? Anybody?
Thank you for welcoming me.
You're quite welcome. Glad to have you.
You're very happy to have you
Yeah,
here.
we have both of our new members.
Rather than future agenda items, let's talk about future meetings. I know you said after next week, you weren't sure we're gonna have to meet again until July. That being a problem, because the week we would meet in July, I'm gonna be at a conference. So if we do meet, that'll fall to you.
Yeah, and I'll be out of town the whole month of July, so.
Whole month of July, okay.
So July's gonna look iffy.
Looks like they're relying on North Florida Avenue.
Yeah, that's right, North Florida,
July.
North Florida crew is in the house.
Finally got a little stroke around here.
What's that?
Are you going to start a meeting in July?
Well, you indicated by then you would have something back in terms of, the final numbers from the county and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we'll have the estimate in a couple weeks.
So should we have the regular June meeting then rather than a July meeting
If you could have a June.
on the
meeting,
the 19th?
Yeah. We could probably give you an update on where the budget is. I'm not sure if we'll have the pay study ready to implement in there. I was thinking of something else. Oh, and by then, they'll be doing the budget public hearing on June 17th. That's where they send out the survey, and we're working on it now with a couple of questions. I send it out to all the residents to try to get their feelings on what they want to see in the budget. After the survey's completed, the board will meet on June 17th and go over the survey, and it's time for public to come to the meeting too and give their input, so if you wanted that, we could try to just update you on June 19th or where we're at.
Okay, let's do the regular June meeting, and because some of us will be gone in July, we'll skip the July meeting then. So we'll meet on June 19th, I believe that's the date, and skip the July meeting.
Oh, it's a holiday.
that's a
Oh, that
holiday,
is.
Yeah.
It's Juneteenth.
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
You have the option, you could either meet, you can't meet the 12th because code enforcement. Or you can meet the week of the 19th, either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That works for anybody, or move it to the 26th of June, which is the following Thursday.
I'm good with the 26th or the week of the 19th, any of those.
I'll be gone the 26th.
What about Wednesday, the week of
The 18th.
the 18th? What about that? Let me just double check.
That works.
Okay,
I can do
so
that.
June 18th,
Let's do Wednesday, June 18th then.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Okay, I talked about the meeting now. The last item on here is any future agenda items that we want to see covered? Other than any updates Ron can give us on the budget process.
I could try to give you a financial update on the current year if you want.
You give them something brief, you don't need to go into
Yeah.
great detail.
1 or 2 page.
You want 40 slides?
No.
Okay, I'm hurt.
Seeing nothing else, we'll adjourn this meeting at 3:32. Thank you all.
Thanks, sir.